more of that later. Now, you may say with my mere 6-foot frame, I'm not best equipped to judge the space of an interior. So luckily today, I'm joined by two dear colleagues, Mr. Mike Bell, who heads up digital here at Lucid, and Mr. Zach Edson, who heads up sales and service. Gentlemen, you look better qualified. How tall are you?
6'7".
6'6".
You're qualified. Please take your seats.
Okay, I'm settled and comfortable up front. How's it in the back?
It's fantastic. I may fall asleep. It's so comfortable.
Hey, steady on, Mike. There's work to do. Do you find it satisfactory?
It's wonderful.
Yes.
Please. So I find that a fascinating proof point. 6'7", 6'6", two former basketball players finding the interior space of a Lucid Air satisfactory. So back when the space concept was conceived, this whole notion of a car which was smaller on the outside and bigger on the inside, I can't tell you, the number of people said to me, well, why do you want to make it smaller on the outside? Yeah, people like big cars, don't they? It's going to be a big limousine. And I said, look, I want to create more of a driver's focused machine. But I confess there was an ulterior motive. I wanted it more agile so it could do this. And this. And this. So how do we even start conceiving a car which is smaller, more compact on the outside, bigger on the inside? Let's look at some of the core geometries of that car, the overall length, the position of the wheels, the available space for the cabin, and then we can start wrapping in some of the other factors like a miniaturized advanced electric powertrain. Let's take a look at some of these variables that we can adjust and really things that we can use as tools to our advantage. So we have the overall length of the vehicle. That's a consideration. And it was important to minimize that. But also we need to consider the wheelbase of the vehicle, which is the distance between the front and the rear wheels. Maximizing that is important in order to create maximum cabin space, but not going too far. Generally speaking, longer wheelbase creates more stability, shorter wheelbase can give more agility. And how can the people then fit into this space? We need a driver to sit here. And a rear occupant here. So we start looking at some of these core fundamentals, and the rear occupant may want to adopt a more upright position here, or may want to adopt a more reclined position like that. So these are the fundamentals that we start laying into the car. And we look at the eye ellipse and the legal eye angles, the vision angles, and we look at the reach for the driver and the steering wheel position. These are key factors to consider. And we generally design for a 98th percentile occupant size here at Lucid, which means that only 2% of the population is larger statistically. So really, to minimize the overall length, maximizing the wheelbase, and maximizing the space for the occupants within that wheelbase, there are some critical sort of touch points that we need to consider in the packaging of the vehicle. And the other critical area is the relationship of the front occupant's foot with the front wheel. Now, normally in a gasoline car, we don't really consider that so much because there's an engine here and a transmission. So we have a gasoline engine here and a transmission housing. And really, that's what tends to drive the driving position rearward, rather than the relationship of the driver's foot to the front wheel. Now, to explain that, I can best do that on the Leap platform itself. So here we are with the Lucid Electric Advanced Platform. And first obvious point is we don't have a gasoline engine, we don't have a big transmission. So what really constrains the position of the front occupant and the driver relative to the wheel really is the structure that runs through here. And why is that important? It's critical. Because this is the transition point, this very point here, between the safety cell of the car, which needs to be rigid to protect the occupants, and the crumple zone here, which needs to be something very different. It has to be soft, compliant. Just as a mattress, if you were going to jump out of a window, you need that softness of the mattress to absorb the impact. This needs to be soft and impact absorbing. This needs to be rigid to protect the occupants. And at this particular transition point, we really need to make that super strong, because this is where the key loads are imparted through the crumple zone into the safety cell, and this is where the maximum forces are seen. And this is why we have this triangulated structural feature here. It is the relationship between that structure's ability to absorb loads and the occupant's feet and the wheel, which is a key determining factor in how we can get maximum interior space for a given wheelbase. An interesting sort of fun fact here, we even use the Wonderbox here, not just as an electronic masterpiece, but we use it as a secondary bulkhead structurally to enhance the triangulation at this interface. Let me explain in more graphic detail. So let's take another look at this crucial interface between the crumple zone and the safety cell and how that influences foot position. So here we have at this crucial interface the triangular forces, the forces coming in from the crumple zone, triangulated by both the cross member, augmented by Wonderbox, and what we call the torque box casting. And this determines effectively how far forward safely we can position the front occupants in the space concept. So armed with these relationships, the relationship between the driver's foot and the front wheel, and the relationship between the rear H-point occupant and the rear wheel, we can have a determined relationship between cabin space and wheelbase. What else can we do? So, although the coefficient of drag is widely quoted as the measure of aerodynamic efficiency, the ease of the car to cut through the air, there are actually two factors. There's the coefficient of drag, or CD, and we have to multiply that by area, the frontal area, to give the drag force. That is the amount of resistance that the car faces cutting through the wind. And here's a great example. We've got this 1/3 scale model here, and we've got the full-size clay here. And they are the same shape, right? They're identical shape. So therefore, although this model is 1/3 size, 1/3 scale, it has the same coefficient of drag, the same CD number as the full-size car. But because it's a 1/3 scale model, it has a 1/9 of the frontal area. So of course this induces 1/9 of the CDA, or drag force, of the total car. And because of the work we've done on the space concept, the car's smaller and has a smaller frontal area and therefore a smaller CDA. So whilst Derek and his team were developing the design theme of the Lucid Air, this exterior form, another team within Lucid was developing the most advanced, most compact electric powertrain imaginable. And with the belief that we'd be able to pull all this together to create the most advanced